Lo-fi, everybody. I'm pretty excited about this one. This is for all the people who says, "Where's the Green Party?" in the midterms and the we're only here once every 4 years. So now we're gonna start doing more than that. We got Butch Ware on Bad Faith with Brianna Joy Gray. He's talking about his run for governor of California. I'm going to break this up into a couple different sections and put it out over the weekend, I think. So the first section is going to be them talking about, I think, the Green Party and the Democratic Party.
Subversive is the language that you use to describe.
Oh, no, I'm wrong. They're going to talk about Kendrick Lamar, I think, first.
The way that the Kendrick performance has been characterized by some.
Right, yeah.
I think that if you choose the term subversive, then there's an argument that can be made that a lot of the visual representation and the cultural references and so forth are subversive. You could make the argument that performing it in that venue in front of Donald Trump on that stage is subversive. But the question that I ask my students, and I'm teaching this hip hop history class, is it revolutionary? Because in the show, he said the revolution will be televised. You picked the right time, but you picked the wrong guy. So that's making a claim that this is a revolutionary intervention. So I actually asked my class, code. Now, they've been hearing from me for 5 weeks, so they're likely to kind of understand where I might sit. But I asked them, is this a revolutionary performance? And about a third said yes, a third said I don't know, and a third said no. And then we had a conversation where we unpacked it. Like, what would it take to be revolutionary in that moment? Last week, they watched Fight the Power, the original full-length video by Public Enemy from 1989, which was filmed during a march against police violence in Brooklyn with thousands of Black folks. And Public Enemy's introduction to that video, to that Fight the Power video, was 2 minutes from a documentary about the 1963 March on Washington. And then Chuck Deast came in and said, that's nonsense. We're done with all of that. We're done with all that marching. We're done with that nonviolence. And they came in with the S1Ws, right? Fruit of Islam, Nation of Islam dancers in military formation, looking militant in jet black army fatigues. Now, that would have been revolutionary. to see that kind of performance on that stage would be revolutionary. If you want to tell me that it was revolutionary as a cultural intervention, I'm open to the argument. But if you're going to tell me that it's revolutionary from a political standpoint, the only thing that was revolutionary was the brother that ran through with the Free Gaza and Free Sudan. And my own argument, and listen, I'll be blunt about this. I'm 100% in Kendrick's camp in the Kendrick versus Drake beef. Obviously, right? And I think I said on the presidential campaign, I said Kamala is to politics what Drake is to hip hop. Right? Damn. It's cosplayed blackness. You come to Atlanta when you need a few dollars. You're not a colleague. You can colonizer. Like, this is somebody that instrumentalizes the culture. So I'm with Kendrick when it comes to a war for the culture. And I described what Kendrick did as a celebration of American blackness. But in my post yesterday, I said Zulkarnain carried the mantle. He literally held the standard that Black Muslims have so frequently held in this country. People like Malcolm, people like Muhammad Ali, people like the enslaved African Muslim rebels, which literally the Spanish crown and other authorities tried to stop the importation of Black Muslims because they were so frequently associated with slave rebellions. So it wasn't at all surprising to me that the truly revolutionary moment in that performance with 400 people on stage came from Zulkarnain, from a Black Muslim brother who felt it, and he's talked about this, that it was a moral and spiritual and religious obligation for him to speak up in the face of injustice. Last thing that I'll say, again, I'm not going to be one of those people that says, because I saw somebody say, like, Kendrick cosplays a revolutionary, these kind of things. I don't want to take that kind of shot. I don't think that that's warranted given the circumstances. But what I wanted to see personally, I wanted to see him take a knee and raise a fist.
That'd have been cool. And one thing I was saying, I think they should have had Colin Kaepernick out there. If Colin Kaepernick would have been out there instead of Serena Williams or both of them or whatever, man, That'd have been awesome. That'd have been crazy. The NFL probably would have kicked him out though right away. And so at first when I was listening to him talk, I was thinking he was kind of being harsh on Kendrick. But I can see what he's talking about, like cultural versus political revolution. Like Kendrick was really true to the culture, but how politically is he? I'm not exactly sure. But later on in this interview, Butch Ware is going to talk about trying to get a hold of Kendrick Lamar, which is something I'd already thought about. I've written down some names that I'm going to try to get a hold of over the next whatever. But like I said, we have a Green Party meeting this Saturday. I'm going to try to find how I can get whoever reaches out for the Green Party to become the person that does reach out for the Green Party, like officially, so that way I can maybe get a little more pull, or people will listen to me a little more when I call them up or whatever. But yeah, so I'm gonna try to bring Kendrick Lamar, and Butch said he was gonna try to bring Kendrick Lamar. We're gonna try to bring them into the Green Party, like all these revolutionaries. I'm gonna call Colin Kaepernick too. But yeah, I'll let him get back to it. But it's gonna be different, man. I'm gonna try to bring in real people, but we also need regular people. Not everybody's real, but I mean like the real, like those that are kind of celebrities or have a name, like a Kendrick Lamar, what I say, Colin Kaepernick. I wrote down Butch Ware. There's a guy named what's his name, Jason Brown. He's an ex-football player who retired and started doing farms and gives away pretty much all that he grows and whatnot. You got Jill Stein, Kashama Swan on here, but you know all the big names. And then we need you, the people. But I'm gonna let Butch continue.
Because I have not watched an NFL game from front to back since Colin Kaepernick was run out of that league. And performing on that kind of stage in front of that kind of audience, that's the kind of revolutionary message that you could send. That's that kind of 1968 energy that was there and available and an option and an opportunity. And not everybody is a revolutionary as an artist. But if you say the revolution will be televised, then deliver revolutionary.
Assalamu alaikum.
One thing I do like about what Kendrick Lamar did do, he dropped all his little Easter eggs. And I didn't know 40 Acres and a Mule, people didn't know about that anymore. That got Googled a whole bunch after it spiked on Google after he said that. And so, yeah, they're not really teaching critical race there. I think I said that in another video. But it's... I forget where I was going. But yeah, like... But as a revolutionary, like, he dropped his Easter eggs, right? And he just had people Googling all kinds of different stuff. And, like, looking up his old albums and looking up his different things. So, I mean, it was a bit... There's commercial element to it, right? And so he's going to make a lot of money from this. But I would hope that Kendrick Lamar... I hope he's really about the people. I hope that Butch or I can get a hold of him, and I hope that it would be great if in 2026 he was doing our rallies at the Green Party, opening up for us and doing like real songs, real political songs, rather than like Beyonce or whoever else was shaking their butt for Kamala. Like, that doesn't make no sense. But like a Kendrick Lamar coming out, a Dead Presidents, Immortal Technique coming out and doing the rallies and stuff, that would make sense.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Gilsat Heron says the revolution will not be televised, isn't that an acknowledgement, an understanding that something of a genuine revolutionary nature would not be feted, would not be allowed in that kind of a context to begin with?
Right, it wouldn't
be
on the corporate TV. It will not be brought
to you by Colgate. It will not make your mouth fresh and clean. All of those things. That's exactly what he's saying. He's saying that it is not going to be filtered through capitalist media. It is not going to be presented in that kind of format. The revolution will be live. The revolution will be something that you have to participate in. The question then becomes, is anything revolutionary possible from that stage, from that platform? That's why when you use the word subversive, I was like, okay, I'll give you subversive. My own personal argument, is that the cultural riffs were subversive. Uncle Sam, Sam Jackson as Uncle Sam is obviously he's obviously playing a character from minstrel performances, and that's what the role he's in that spot, and he's repping it. Nathan Irvin Huggins, one of my favorite historians, wrote this book called Harlem Renaissance, where he said the art of the Harlem Renaissance was trash because it was all performed for the white gaze. And then at the end of that book, he had a chapter on blackface minstrel.
So when he said the white gaze, the first time I heard this, I was thinking of the LGBTQ crowd, right? But he means like the gaze, like visual gaze. He's going to say it a few more times. It'll become a little bit more obvious, but just in case you don't get it.
Shows in vaudeville. And he reminded people that the first blackface performers were all black. They blackened their faces further. They used red lipstick around their mouths to draw accentuated lips. They performed a particular version of blackness for the white gaze. And then Nathan Irvin Huggins asked the question, at what point does the mask become the face? At what point does the performance of a particular version of blackness for the white gaze in the culture become inseparable from what black people themselves see of themselves and their culture? And I wonder where we are in 2025 in that moment, if something that is essentially a commercial performance for a mainstream audience, if that's where we are.
Yeah, I mean, so I confess that I wasn't going to watch the game, and then I tuned in at halftime.
Yep.
And so when I started watching it, it wasn't the first time Samuel L. Jackson had popped up in the performance. I think it was later, like halfway through the performance, right around the SZA part. And my first reaction was, what in the minstrel show is happening here? What is Samuel L. Jackson involved in? And so I'm like, okay. Maybe I missed something. I'm reading all the think pieces afterward. I'm looking at all like the TikTok explainers because as I said up top, I fully admit that I'm not fully up to date on every aspect of what might be going on here in like hip hop beef territory. Yep. And I really like Samuel L. Jackson. I have a lot of respect for him. I have a hard time imagining him not thoughtfully taking on a role like this. There's obviously the inflections of the role that he had in Django.
In Django, yeah.
Of this Uncle Tom character, so like he's aware, obviously he's aware. So I was like, I know they don't have an unselfconscious Uncle Tom in this situation. Uncle Tom Sam. Uncle Sam Tom.
Uncle Sam.
And I hate that people say Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom's Cabin was not the book, but it was one of the big reasons that slavery ended. I guess of books, it's the book that helped end slavery of all books. But it was the highest selling and most read book of the 1800s outside of the Bible. And Uncle Tom was the hero in that book. Sambo was the villain. Sambo was the one that told the master that Uncle Tom would pick extra cotton and give it to other slaves that were too slow to pick enough cotton and that would have gotten a whooping. He picked the cotton for them. And sometimes he would give out all his cotton to people and just take whoopings because he was passing out cotton. So Uncle Tom is a hero in the book. And it's the right wing breaks words and then makes us use the wrong word for the wrong situation. Uncle Tom should not be used in this way. Sambo should be used in this way. And that was one of the things I was thinking earlier that I think Kendrick Lamar missed out on this in this performance. It was cool that Samuel L. Jackson came out as Uncle Sam. Obviously Sam, but then the US whatever. But along with Sam, that he should have made like a reference to Bo and like maybe not just said Sambo straight out, but like had a reference to where people were like, did he mean Sambo? And then they look up Sambo and then they'd find out that Sambo was what they mean by Uncle Tom, and you should be calling people a Sambo and not an Uncle Tom if you're trying to denigrate them or whatnot. But as she's saying, for the character, when I first watched it, I thought the character of Uncle Sam, I thought it was funny. And I thought that he was reacting like white America would react or conservative America would react. When I watched it, I just thought like, well, that's kind of obvious, right? Like it didn't hit me as hard. But then when I started watching all the reactions and oh my gosh, people were so over the top. It's so goofy that how mad they are. This is a DEI halftime show. Watch Fox News, perfect. Watch a bunch of Fox News coverage of this, and that's the character that Samuel L. Jackson was playing. And to me, I think that's one of the things that hit me the funniest, because when I watched it the first time, I was just like thinking like, oh well, that's just too obvious, whatever, like Uncle Sam and whatever. And then they did it so bad. They did it so much that they did it, and it looked like they were playing the part, like they were acting like Samuel L. Jackson playing the part. It was just too good. But I really wish that he would have brought the Sambo part into it.
Damn tough.
But something, I'm reading all the think pieces afterward. I'm looking at all like the TikTok explainers, because as I said up top, I fully admit that I'm not fully up to date on every aspect of what might be going on here in like hip hop beef territory. Yep. And I really like Samuel L. Jackson. I have a lot of respect for him. I have a hard time imagining him not thoughtfully taking on a role like this. There's obviously the inflections of the role that he had in Django.
In Django, yeah.
Chained.
Of this Uncle Tom character. So like he's aware.
Sambo.
Obviously, he's aware. So I was like, I know they don't have an unselfconscious Uncle Tom in this situation. Uncle Tom Sam. Uncle Sam Tom.
See, Uncle Sambo. See, he missed that little opportunity. That would have been a huge opportunity.
I'm struggling. I'm trying to have a good faith, understanding of what was intended. But I was struggling with it because no one, as many of these 2-minute explainers that I watch on TikTok, I have yet to hear someone explain, and so what? And so what am I supposed to take away from it? And so what did it mean? Okay, Samuel, right. It's subversive. It is a play on X. Okay, for what purpose? Is what I'm still waiting to hear. And it hasn't been so long that we were in a world where Brianna had boycotted the Super Bowl.
For what purpose? I think it was for the purpose to kind of show white America or conservative America what they look like. And even though they're not going to totally see it probably, their children will, their brothers and sisters might, some of them will, but because when I watched it, I was like, that's just too obvious. Why would you even put that in there? But then if you watch Fox News react, oh my gosh, it's just so funny. So Brianna Joy Gray, please go check out Fox News's reactions to it, and you might understand why he put Sammy in there like that.
Right, and declined to be a halftime performer over Black Lives Matter and the treatment of Colin Kaepernick. Cut to the last time there was this face-off in the Super Bowl, right? 2 years ago.
Right, she boycotted for Colin Kaepernick. What if he would have brought Colin Kaepernick in and he was just down there kneeling when it started or whatever? Because they had the American flag, right? What if he was kneeling at the center like he was, well, I guess he was kneeling. Wasn't Kendrick Lamar kneeling in the center of the flag? But it'd have been cool if they had Colin Kaepernick somewhere.
With these same two teams, and she was the headliner. And I'm a little confused as to how we got from there to now. We had Beyonce doing the Reformation, the Get Information performance years back, 2016-ish, 2017? I don't remember exactly. And there was all of that imagery.
Beyonce is so bougie, man. Talking about pay my telephone bill. She was whack when she was young, man. She was no Beyonce.
Panther outfits and all of the post Hurricane Katrina imagery that she had been using to rep legitimately the places where
that lady's a billionaire. She could do so much for people. Her and Jay-Z sitting there trying to push school vouchers so rich people could save money sending their kids to private schools. That's crazy. Beyonce is not a people person. She should be a Republican.
And to bring...
And then again, these are Democratic people. Beyonce's a Democrat. She's going to be pushing school vouchers. She's a billionaire. She ain't helping you. She ain't doing nothing good for you. None of the Democrats are.
Attention to a certain kind of black struggle, but it all seems to be so distilled and so vague and so superficial by the time it hits the Super Bowl that it does nothing but to siphon away the genuinely righteous objections that people had and boycotts that people had toward the NFL for their treatment of a player for doing a de minimis, frankly, protest.
Yeah. So I'll go back to where you started first with Uncle Sam Tom or Uncle
See,
Tom
Uncle
Sam.
Sambo, man, would have been the
So I
perfect.
want this to be very clear because I now know, having done political stuff, what it's like to have little sound bites cut out, and then people run with those. So I want to make sure that I frame this right. I'm not saying that Kendrick Lamar's halftime show was a minstrel performance. However, however, where is the line? I think that an analyst could ask between a meta commentary on a minstrel performance and an actual minstrel performance. Those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive. You can have a kind of critique of the form present in the presentation and yet reproduce some of the dynamics of the minstrel show in the presentation. Now, I don't know how to read it. I end up divided on it. I think that it's, a culturally interesting intervention. I would have wanted more, politically. I definitely don't consider it a revolutionary performance, but I don't know that I would go so far as to describe it as a minstrel show. But you've gotten to the heart of the problem. At what point does the mask become the face? At what point do all of these people who have taken these critical stances towards various kinds of Black political issues, at what point are they just taking a check and doing the show and, dancing the way that they're supposed to dance? What's the difference? One could ask. I'm not saying I'm asking it, but what's the difference, one could ask, between Snoop Dogg and Rick Ross performing at Donald Trump's inauguration and Megan Thee Stallion twerking for Kamala's, fundraisers, and Kendrick performing at the halftime show? In terms of the vision.
One big difference is Kendrick got everybody on Google asking all these questions about what he was talking about. He educated people in an entertaining way for days up until still today. People are still putting out videos about his halftime show, what it means, the double entendres, the this and that, the hidden meanings, the Easter eggs.
Visual aesthetics of it, in terms of the cultural authenticity of the performance, you could put Kendrick in a different category. But politically, to return to your issue, and this was actually the question that the students asked me, is that some of them had said, that, well, just doing this kind of performance with those subversive elements, United States flag made out of entirely Black bodies, that kind of thing, that's making a political statement. So the question I asked back was, what's the political statement?
Yeah.
What is the political statement that is being made, except we're here and we're.
So in some of the different, what do you call it, reviews of the halftime show, a lot of people said that the Black bodies represented that the United States was built on slavery, built by the Black bodies, built the United States. So that would be the political, what it meant.
Black, reason. And you have to deal with us. So I can read it, and even a part of me love it as a celebration of the culture, as a celebration of American Blackness. But in terms of making a political statement that's transformative in this moment, something that's revolutionary in this moment, that's a harder case to make. I don't see it functioning in that way. The Revolutionary Act, again, was Zulkarnain, carrying a double flag.
Yeah, and I heard him give an interview on, I think, Al Jazeera this morning, and he was so on point as he described his motivations and what he stood for, and so clear.
I felt I didn't have a choice because I was selected to be a part of the halftime show, and when I saw what my position was, it was a great stage, a large stage, and we know as a practicing Muslim, our Prophet Muhammad teaches us if you see a wrongdoing or you're aware of a wrongdoing, you must stop it with your hands. And if you can't stop it with your hands, stop it with your tongue. Speak out against it. And if you can't stop it with your tongue, try to stop it with your heart, meaning pray about it. So I had an opportunity on a grand scale to bring awareness or speak out against a wrong of our Muslim brothers and sisters, because we're spiritually connected in Islam, and we're human, and we're connected with empathy for humanity, because we're all human beings, God's creation, and they're oppressed, and it's on a wide scale, and nobody is really giving it the light. that it should get at least working toward a change. And I wanted to show the solidarity to those afflicted by this and their families and loved ones, that they're being remembered here in America. And they're being remembered here in America, not just by me.
See that guy? That used to be me.
I also think that guy should have talked to Kendrick Lamar and maybe seen if Kendrick Lamar was interested in putting a little Palestine thing in the show, because it was cool that he did that, right? But he could have got it to where maybe Kendrick Lamar did something where a few people did something and wouldn't have got kicked out, right? Because it would have been just part of the show.
But by others.
In contrast to what I felt watching the halftime performance. But again, I'm open to the idea that I just don't get it. I think Torre, he did one of these clips. Maybe we'll splice a bit of that in. He made the point about the American flag being made out of black bodies and how we're the literal #fabric of the country.
Last night, Kendrick gave us a nuanced discussion of what it is to be black in America. He was saying America is a game and we're all trapped inside of it. The stage was a giant PlayStation controller that the performers couldn't even see the entirety of. So this is like what we're trapped in America, in mass incarceration, in capitalism, in the entire American system. We are trapped in a game that we have no chance to win. And not only that, we can't even see that we're in the game. Like the dancers can't see that we can't even see that we're in a game. And you got Samuel L. Jackson.
See, that's those in the Democratic Party are still fighting for the Democratic Party. They can't see the game.
As Uncle Sam. When do we get to see a black man play Uncle Sam? And we're seeing Sam say, hey, you're being too ghetto, too rebellious. Don't you know how to play the game?
And another thing, he should have put DEI in there somewhere. He should have said, you're being too ghetto. It's too much DEI or something, whatever. Like, he should have, I think that would have been cool if he'd have got DEI in there.
For an older black man to say to him, don't you know how to play the game? That is so deeply coded. Like, do you know how to navigate the system? Do you know how to deal with the hurdles that the white man is going to...
Like, do you know how to play the game? Don't you want to use your DEI? Something like that. That'd have been slick.
...to throw at you? Do you know how to do the necessary sacrifices and compromises and code switching that's necessary to get there? Kendrick had been doing his hardcore rap songs at that point, and Samuel L. Jackson is talking about, you're scaring America. Don't you know how to play the game to mollify these white folks? So after Sam says, don't you know how to play the game? Kendrick goes into the softer songs, the R&B. This is when Luther comes out. This is when SZA comes out. And when Sam says, that's what America wants, nice and calm, that's when he's playing the game. So Kendrick switches it up. That's when we go into Not Like Us. But of course, there's a whole game with Not Like Us. Is he going to do it? Is he not? It's like hopscotch. He's in, he's out. He starts to do it, then he backs off. Then he teases that he's going to do it again, then he backs off, then he jumps right into it. He's playing a game with you. And the whole Samuel L. Jackson thing is like, no matter how high and big you get, there will always be that voice of America standing there going, you're being too ghetto, you're not playing the game enough, you're not enough. And oh my God, an American flag made of black bodies. So much symbolism, how we are the fabric of America. We are the raw materials that made America. We form America. We are definitely part of America, but also we are trapped in America.
I see the fabric and the raw materials. So he was referring to slavery and how we did build America, and he should have I don't think he just said it quite as well. Like when she referred to the fabric, she didn't hear what he was saying, I don't think.
Right? We got the Drake references with Serena and the A-Chain and the whole he likes to sue. But this was really about, let's critique America. Let's talk back to America. Let's put on our critique of America at the Super Bowl.
The oil and serums that everyone uses.
But also how Kendrick calls Drake a colonizer. I think he's going at Drake as part of America. It's a double entendre, right? Like he's the house Negro, and then Drake is. And then he's also got Uncle Sambo, representing America, the establishment, right? But that's what I took it as.
there's this point about the choreography, the set looking like a video game controller, and Samuel L. Jackson saying like this is a game, and it's, you know, like a meta commentary about how the powers that be are playing all of us. Like I see it, I get it, and I'm not. Maybe we're asking too much of what it is, a performance.
And yeah, it's a performance, but then also there's only so much you can do with just people, right? Like he had some lights and stuff, but they didn't use like a lot of strings and ropes. But I mean, no matter who does a show, you can always watch it and then be like, oh, you could have added this to it, right? Like you can, no matter who does it, you can do it the greatest show ever. You could watch it and be like, oh, you could add these 3 things to it to make it a little better. Or it's just how it is.
At the Super Bowl, but I do think your point of saying, well, if you're going to open it up to saying the revolution will be televised, then I think that it's perfectly fair to have the scrutiny that we're giving here, applying here, asking whether or not this is in fact a revolutionary performance.
Well, hopefully now, it's the beginning of a revolution.
It's all happening in the context of the right melting down over this.
They're gonna melt down over, you know, any kind of black people doing anything, you know. So I mean, so that's gonna happen, you know, regardless. And I mean, so part of what I heard in what you were just describing was identity politics standing in as politics again, right? That just by showing up and being black in that space, that's political statement enough. And
it said it was a DEI halftime show. All these black people, why are they here? So crazy.
Yeah, because that's not what Gil Scott-Heron was talking about, right? That's not what Malcolm was talking about. That's not what Fred Hampton was talking about. That's not what Huey P. Newton was talking about. They were talking about an actual black revolutionary politics that is about liberation, not just representation. And even if you get back into and this, like, you know, happen to be teaching a hip hop history class, as I mentioned, you get back to the kind of origins of what hip hop is doing in the culture, like literally, the first DJs, you know, Africa Bambaataa is, you know, a leader of a street gang called the Black Spades that he then transforms into the almighty Zulu nation, like Afrocentric identification, and takes guys that were beating people up with brass knuckles and bats. This is before guns come into the game, and are now throwing house parties and breakdancing competitions, that you're turning something negative into something that's positive, that it was countercultural even at its root, and that a lot of the political content that comes into the music in the 1980s through a lot of the 5%er rappers, you know, like Brand Nubian, Rakim, you got groups like X-Clan. These are political groups, not to mention Public Enemy, who we've already talked about. So for me, as an old head, and I will confess to this, I am one of those genuine,
call some of them groups, have them do the rallies too,
dyed in the wool, true hip hop heads from the beginning. You know, so for me, what passes for conscious or political now, which is kind of vaguely subversive, does not cut the mustard for what was explicitly revolutionary political music. Go back, you know, through Dead Prez, you know, and others who
look up Dead Presidents. That's a group, a hip hop group, great revolutionary music.
Who were actually making the soundtrack of a revolution. And I will say this, is that, you know, I'm a believer in, you know, practicing Muslim. One of the things that we'll sometimes say in the tradition is, God ain't done with you yet. You know, like what's coming in the rest of your story is yet to be determined. God ain't done with Kendrick yet. Kendrick still has a platform through which, if he wishes to, he can expand on these things. And I think that that sitting back, it may be more productive in this moment, even if it's maybe like you know, Don Quixote, you know, quixotic to do so, to call him into that, to assuming that political role, rather than to call him out for not embracing it in an explicit enough way in this particular moment.
The BRICS nations.
I like that. Let's call him in and tell Kendrick that I didn't cut the mustard.
Listen, I'll tell you this: whoever's watching this, if Kendrick is your
Right.
people, give me a sit down with Kendrick and let's talk. The history of Black radical music, Black radical politics. And if you really want to make a transformational intervention in the nature of white supremacy, you've got a platform for it. Let's work on the messaging.
So that's what I'm talking about. See, the Green Party, we got some new minds, some new voices. We're going to be bringing in some new people. Become one of those people. Call your local Green Party. It won't hurt to call your local Green Party. Just become a member. You ain't got to put no money in. If you want to put $5 or $10 in, it's not a big deal, whatever. And just see what they're saying. They'll also listen to you, see if they need a leader. Are you a leader? Can you help lead the Green Party? We obviously need some leaders out there in different states, different areas. Just because we're a people-led movement, people-led party, we need people like you to help us out.
I do think that one thing I will be looking...
But I am excited that they're talking about getting a hold of Kendrick. Like I've said on some of my videos, if you know some of these people, hey, man, hook me up. Send them over my way. Let's talk so I can get them on here and we can talk about people stuff.
Toward is whether or not
stuff.
Kendrick offers any commentary on the Palestine flag aspect of this protest. Whether he's asked or whether he offers up that he supported the act, which was done by one of his dancers, or whether he would defend him. The media cycle just in the couple of days afterward was all about what seemed to be a scramble to try to stick that guy with some kind of charge, which they seemed not to be able to find anything, even though they certainly made a Girl Scout effort, a good faith effort.
We've got something akin to the rule of law for another 10, 15 minutes in this country. So, yeah.
Right. So then the question becomes, does Kendrick disavow him? Does he get away with basically saying nothing at all? And what do we take from that, if that's the case? At the moment, it seems like he sort of gets some residual goodwill from the association with that protest moment,
while still maintaining plausible deniability with respect to the contractual elements of the protest itself. And that's really what this eventually comes down to, right? This comes down to the fact that the NFL is going through everything that you're doing with a fine-tooth comb, to the point that everything that you do is going to have to be formally approved before it gets to the stage, lest they have a political equivalent of Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction, right? So in the end, that was actually where my students landed this morning, was you can't do anything revolutionary from that stage, because that's not a revolutionary stage.
Or maybe you can given the live performance nature of it all, but you have to be willing to
I was about to say you can't
never do it again.
Right.
Exactly. You have to be willing to deal with the consequences. You have to be willing to deal.
But that's what revolutionary is. You deal with the consequences. You do what's right because it's right, not because it's easy.
With having the Zionist record labels, and I mean, let's just be clear about this. Drake and Kendrick are both under the same Zionist record label in the end. Drake is suing their, shared label. So
I don't even know anything about that. The shared label.
Those networks of commercial control that are shaping what hip hop can and can't say politically. Those things are very real. And one of my favorite MCs, Wise Intelligent from Poor Righteous Teachers, he said, I think it was 2009 at a Nation of Islam event, Savior's Day event. He said, hip hop changing from positive and revolutionary to negative and reactionary was not an accident. It was the product of record label decision makers who were afraid of the political potential of this Afrocentric, politically astute music. And what we have seen ever since.
And that's why they funnel you to the Democratic Party and don't let you do no real left-wing revolutionary stuff. They don't want that. They're cool with the Democrats, though. It's all right.
Is industry plants like Drake, who,
the colonizer,
as Yassine Bey put it, as Mos Def put it, make music that's good to shop to. right?
Yeah, I remember that clip.
It's good. It's good. He said you're at a Target in Houston. By the way, Yassine Bey, another shout out to Black Muslims and being politically astute, right? You know,
like, is Drake hip hop?
Why are you doing this to me?
Most Def, that's
Drake
my boy.
is pop to me, in the sense like if I was in Target in Houston and I heard a Drake song, it feels like.
Most Def is another good one to call for the Green Party. Butch, Ware, if you see this, give him a call. I'm gonna try to get a hold of him too.
A lot of his music,
If you know Most Def, hit me up.
Compatible with shopping.
Shit, if you don't know Most Def, hit me up. Right.
Commercial music.
Or it's you know,
music, yeah.
shopping with an edge.
Ooh.
In certain instances.
Hardcore shopping.
Fair. I like Drake's music, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
Of course, I mean,
It's
get
commercial, entertaining, fun, good,
it's
formulaic music.
It's likable.
Likable music, yeah.
It's likable.
But is it? You know, I'm gonna leave you alone. We're gonna move on.
It's likable.
So many products.
So many SKUs.
So many SKUs. Look at all these SKUs. Oh, so many products.
So much merchandising. So many barcodes.
I love this mall. Look at this place. I mean, look at this place. They have everything. Everything's here. They have everything here. Oh, this is great. This is a new Drake. You hear it? It's great.
It's been colonized. They have everything here.
Okay.
Everything a capitalist could want.
What happens when this thing collapses? What happens when the columns start buckling? Are we not in some early stage of that at this present hour? Are we seeing like the collapse of the empire? Buying and selling, where's the message that I can use?
Right.
You know, what's in it for your audience apart from like banging the pom-poms?
He said if I could see myself at a Target in Houston, you know, with Drake playing on the speakers. And again, this isn't where I come down on Kendrick and and Drake. That's an easy mark, you know. But would I have loved for Kendrick to say Free Palestine instead of just having one of the 400 people behind him run through with a flag? Yeah, I would have loved that. I really would have.
Yeah. Your point about the reactionary nature of not just a certain kind of hip hop, but a certain segment of Black politics really strikes me. It really does feel like if you boil down the point of a lot of stuff that seems sort of quote unquote subversive, the point is sort of like make white people uncomfortable. And even the kind of use of the Uncle Sam Tom character seemed to be geared toward that. I was trying to read, just for people who might not have been following all of this, find like a good faith summary of the version of the case that no, this is revolutionary. I wanted to read just a little bit of it, just so people can assess it on their own. This is from Screen Rant, an article that purports to describe what we're supposed to take away from the Samuel L. Jackson character. It says Kendrick Lamar's halftime show notably begins with a close-up of Samuel L. Jackson, who's dressed as Uncle Sam. This character appears frequently throughout the show and offers crucial thematic value to the narrative Lamar weaves through his performance. Before diving deeper, it's important to note that Jackson's Uncle Sam character is reminiscent of his role in Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained. In the film he played, we know all that, a house slave, blah, blah, blah. It's vital to Samuel L. Jackson's role as Uncle Sam that his character sounds like Steven, his Django character. As in both cases, he's playing a Black man who works against his own race in order to thrive in American society. It's also crucial to making this work that it's Jackson, specifically in the role, a man who has a long history of political activism, even serving as an usher at Martin Luther King's funeral, serves to further highlight that Lamar is making a point here. Okay, a point. Let's get to
a point. Yep.
Jackson's Uncle Sam character is there to remind and try to enforce what the typical Super Bowl halftime show performer should be like, and of what certain sections of America expect from that, offering vibrancy and patriotism in contrast with Kendrick Lamar's subtle and understated performance. This is partially for Kendrick to acknowledge that he is not J-Lo or Rihanna, and that his showmanship will offer a measured, more particular meaning instead. Okay, so they're saying that it's supposed to highlight a creative choice that Kendrick is making to have a more measured performance as opposed to the showmanship we associate with the Super Bowl. That I would argue is not political, but okay.
At all.
Okay, yeah. With that in mind, it's easier to examine what Samuel L. Jackson was saying throughout the show. In response to Kendrick's performance of Squabble Up, Jackson exclaimed, "Too loud, too reckless, too ghetto," and "Mr. Lamar, do you really know how to play the game?" His character is intended to challenge Kendrick Lamar's performance, suggesting that the songs aren't proper for a show like the Super Bowl. That he is telling this to Lamar and his dancers, a group of black people forming the American flag, is also indicative of them being told their place. However, rather than submitting to Uncle Sam's request, Lamar continued to deliver tracks that were true to his reputation. Okay. Similarly, this is true of Lamar stating, "The revolution about to be televised, you got the right time, but the wrong guy." As The Atlantic posits, this may be him again reckoning with his own place in America and the expectations placed upon him to make a political statement of some kind here, wanting him to be more of a messiah than a musician. However, it's also apparent in this context that Lamar referring to himself as the wrong guy is countering Uncle Sam's demands, underscored by referencing Gil Scott-Heron's Black Liberation song, "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." He's saying that he will not just do what Uncle Sam's America wants and play its game.
Hey, this is Russell Brunson, and in a couple of days, I am doing a crazy, exciting, fun, unique event called the Selling.
Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button there. What?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. No, keep going. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and then just say, ultimately, Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance is a self-reflective examination of his role as an artist on an entertainer stage, with Samuel L. Jackson's Uncle Sam there to represent the prodding force of American media and politics. To me, just being like, this is how it is, like, white people be like this, and black people be like this, and like, white people aren't gonna like this, and they're gonna censor this, and this is like a representation of my anticipated white reaction to this, for some reason played by a black man, but never mind, I don't know that it's doing anything. And I don't know that if it's supposed to be holding up a mirror to society, I don't even know that it's doing that with any particular insight. We got Matt Walsh immediately tweeting, "This is a DEI performance," or whatever. Do we really need the mirror?
Right.
Like, the mirror's loud, the mirror's screaming, the mirror's running the...
See, I thought that when I first watched it, I was just like, kind of like, what is the point? A little bit. But then just how the reaction was, I thought it was, I like it. I liked it more after the reaction of all the people who are mad at it. Like, it's almost like they're playing Samuel L. Jackson's part and not like he was playing their part. They're just, to me, it's like a chef's kiss. It was good. I really like it.
In the country.
Yeah, we know. We definitely know. And I mean, one could make the argument if one wanted to defend it. I would neither make nor defend the argument that just by showing up, in that way, in that space, that is a revolutionary act. I think at best it's subversive. I don't think that it, there's lyrics about police brutality that Kendrick could have used, from that stage, from his own corpus. There's and again, artists make choices, on the basis of what they want to do and what they think that they can get away with. I'll just say this, to return to where we started. Subversive, maybe. Making a statement, sure. What's the statement, and what's the political, what are the political ramifications of it? Again, I think that this falls, to be perfectly honest, into a broader, pattern of, like the way that Black identity has been, co-opted by the Democratic Party and by, kind of neoliberalism in the current, moment, which is just that just by showing up and being included in the story while also being Black, you are doing something revolutionary. And Fred Hampton taught me, that we don't fight, capitalism with Black capitalism. That's not the way that we fight back. We don't fight back with inclusion and getting a seat at a table that is inherently destructive and oppressive. You flip that mother over, and that's that.
There you go. That's why I'm talking about the Green Party, man. The Democrats, you want to sit at the table that ain't gonna feed you? Let's flip that over and go to the Green Party, DSA, PSL. Let's build this coalition.
Again, I have an appreciation and a respect for what for a kind of cultural manifestation and how the culture is going to have a particular response to that kind of performance in a visceral way. But if you're asking about what the political outcomes and ramifications, the political critique, and whether it's revolutionary, I think that conversation takes place in a different register. And I think that slippage is a huge part of the problem with where we are now in Black radical politics.
I think the conversation should take place over time. All them people started Googling, maybe we start a movement with that. Maybe he does come to the Green Party when you call him. And even if he doesn't, all these people that are looking up 40 acres a meal and all the different things he was talking about, maybe they join the Green Party, maybe they start movements.
Like I said this when we were on the campaign trail, is that, Kamala is weaponizing blackness in service of a white supremacist genocide. And I find that offensive to the history and nature of blackness itself, which is supposed to be a form of resistance against white supremacy. So there are very, very easy ways, and we've now seen a bunch of them, where Black visuals and cultural references can be distorted and utilized for very conservative or neoliberal or even fascist purposes. And
we're going to leave it here for this now. I'm going to do the second half. He's going to talk about running for the Green Party and governor of California and whatnot. I just want to do the halftime show. I didn't think it was going to be quite this long. But so I'm gonna probably put this out on Saturday, and I'll put the other one out on Sunday, make it a part 2. And we will see you guys later. Keep getting your information from across the spectrum.